Hi everyone, my name is Sarah. Welcome back. On this channel, I talk about life in Germany as an American and all the funny quirks about living abroad in Europe. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, then please stick around for more. So today on this channel, we're going to talk about 7 great things about living in Germany. And of course, there are definitely more than 7 benefits to living in Germany, but these are just my top picks from my experiences of living here in Germany now for 4 years. So number 1 on the list doesn't only pertain to Germany, but it's really awesome that the price on the shelf for whatever you're going to buy is the price you're actually going to pay. And this is because the value added tax, or the VAT for short, is automatically added to the price of that good. So the price that you see on the shelf underneath the product when you're in any kind of store, that is the final price you're going to pay with tax. I just have to say the convenience factor is definitely one of the reasons why I think this is such a great thing about living in Germany. So number 2 on the list is no worrying about healthcare. So Germany has a single payer healthcare system. Part of your healthcare is paid for by your employer and part of it is paid by you. But it is actually a law that you must have health insurance. And Germany has 2 groups of health insurance. They have a public and they also have a private. Now, most people are on the public insurance, but it's still the really top-notch healthcare. And this is one of those things that is just never on your mind. There's also the private healthcare, which once you reach a certain income, because your health insurance is a percentage of how much you make if you are in the public system, it may make sense for some people to choose the private insurance because then their contribution will be a little less. With the private insurance, there are some things that are covered and some things not, which is not necessarily the case in the public healthcare system. People do just fine in the regular system. It's just nice to know that you're never going to go bankrupt if you get sick. So that's a nice weight off the shoulders, I have to say. I can talk more about my experiences with the healthcare system in another video if people are interested. Number 3 applies not only to Germany, but Europe more broadly, and that is public transport. This is such an amazing concept, especially with the rail system. This is an extensive network that runs all across Europe, from Portugal all the way to Vladivostok if you really want to go. You can reach pretty much everywhere by rail. It's a very economical and also more environmentally friendly way to travel. There is now a bullet train that goes from Berlin to Munich that takes only 3.5 hours, which is basically the amount of time it would take to get ready to go to the airport and then have to go through security and check your bags and then land, pick up your bags again in your final destination. It pretty much works itself out at the end there. In addition to rail, there is also the underground trains, which are usually in the major urban areas, but also light rail systems. But there's also a very, very extensive bus system as well that can reach some of these smaller places. Pretty much you can reach almost everywhere in Europe by public transport. But despite that fun fact, still, there is 1 car for every 2 people in Germany, so it's pretty clear that Germany still is not ready to give up the car. But I guess that's pretty clear with BMW, Mercedes, and Audi. It's a dual system that works really well together. So number 4 on the list applies mostly to Germany and not necessarily to Europe more broadly. But it's that Germany is a very high trust society. People and their communities really trust each other. There's a very low crime rate. People often know their neighbors. They help each other out. They really get to know each other and they really trust each other. And case in point in this is that when you go into an underground station, there's actually no doors blocking you from going inside. So they trust that you have bought your ticket and paid. And of course, there's a really big fee if you don't. It's part of your contribution. It's your responsibility to your community. At least in Munich, where I live, honestly, the biggest crime that's committed here is bike theft. And it's maybe not even the whole bikes themselves, but like just the seat or just the front wheel or a piece that somebody is missing. Like that is how dangerous it is to live here. So it's just one of the benefits of living in a high trust society, and it's awesome being part of that community. Right, so number 5 on the list is applicable to most of Europe, if not all. People here speak multiple languages natively. From the time that students enter into the Grundschule, that's the grammar school, the elementary school, they start learning another language, usually English at first. And then they can pick more languages once they get into junior high and high school. This is something that is very different from the US, where we are predominantly monolingual. It's very unusual to speak only one language, like myself. If you are an American traveling here, you can absolutely get by with just English, although the locals will really appreciate if you speak their language. When I first came here, I would speak a little bit of German that I knew, and then they would just continue to speak German back to me, and I had no idea what they were talking about. So this can be a little bit of a runaway train situation. You just sort of give them a deer in the headlights type of a look, and they sort of get it. So you can just always ask if they speak English, especially the younger people, not necessarily the older generations, but you will be able to communicate with someone. Okay guys, we're approaching the end, but we have first number 6. In particular, Germany has such a rich history, and when you're walking in all of the cities, there's a lot of historical charm. This is something like on a time scale Americans I don't think can really understand. For instance, in Weihenstephan, which is a little north of Munich, it's a little university town, but on a hill, there was the very first brewery in the world established by the monks that were there. It's crazy to know that they've been brewing beer on this hill for over 1,000 years. Like, this is such a cool, rich history. And the people here honor those traditions in different ways. Across Europe and in Germany, there are many festivals and events that are celebrating this heritage and traditional ways of life. In the southern part of Germany, there's a lot of celebration, especially of the old costumes. In Bavaria, there are many traditions surrounding the Lederhosen and the Dirndl. And these are traditional clothes worn by the farmers, by the peasantry, that have been restyled and costumed and are now a little bit more over the top than they used to be, of course. But there's a lot of celebration of heritage. Okay guys, here we are at the last one, number 7. This is one of the greatest things about living in Germany, and this is student life. When you are a student, you have discounts for everything, you have free tuition, you have a lot of flexibility in your life. You can also take up a job, you can be studying, and you can have a social life. It's really great to be a student in Germany. Number 1, there's no tuition for public universities. Germany did away with tuition for public colleges several years ago. There are still some student fees that apply, and especially also for transportation, but there are so many benefits for being a student here, and you receive a lot of support and also a lot of options for scholarships, a lot of help along the way if you need it. I was really shocked when I came here for my master program and there was no mandatory attendance to the courses. My mind was blown. For many programs, they have all of the slides online, and this predates COVID, by the way. It requires a lot of self-control and self-management of your time, but they basically expect by the time that you get to this age that you can manage your time effectively. The other downside to that is a lot of your grades ride on just a single exam or a single paper or maybe just a couple throughout the semester. So you really have to be on top of things with your self-study and your time management in order to be a successful student, because they really give that control to you and give you the responsibility for your own education. So thanks guys for sticking around to the end. I hope these were useful and informative. So if you have any questions about any of the topics that I talked about today, please leave a comment down below and I will answer them. And if you want to see more content like this, then please subscribe to my channel and I'll see you next time. Bye. Look at the camera. Can you see the camera? Yeah. Hi.